The Doing the Orden podcast is brought to you by Baldwin Park Pizza Company. The Baldwin Park Pizza Company has been serving Joey's original recipe for over 20 years. It's voted #1 pizza in San Gabriel Valley 6 years running. Come visit or get delivery.
Hi everyone, I'm Hannah, host of the Doing the Orden podcast, and today me and my guest Jimmy Jacobs are here at Baldwin Park Pizza Company, which have been serving Joey's original recipe for over 20 years now.
That's quite the plug you got there.
So let's get started. So, how are you doing today?
I am fantastic despite the Los Angeles traffic that tried to keep me from here. But I'm here, ready to put on a costume and do what I do.
Okay, so were you a fan of wrestling growing up?
Absolutely. I mean, my first memory of wrestling is Mr. Perfect shooting a perfect game of pool. And that was, I was probably like 5 or 6 at that point. My first wrestling show I went to was '91. It was main evented by Ultimate Warrior and Sergeant Slaughter inside a steel cage, going into right before WrestleMania 7.
Oh, okay, so who were you a fan of?
Ultimate Warrior was probably the first guy. Then Randy Savage. Those colorful costumes, those big characters. You know, I was like really young. And then starting my teen years, Mick Foley. That was my guy.
Okay. So, where did you first go to train when you first started wrestling?
So, my brother actually wanted to be a professional wrestler, and he found a school in Grand Rapids, Michigan, where we're both from. And he was a few years older than me, so I just started like hanging around, like tagging along, kind of what most people would do when they get in the business. They just they set up chairs, they set up rings. I would.
Where you first started training?
Right. So I first got in. This is like '98, and so my brother's older brother, he started training. I just started hanging around. So I would set up chairs and rings. I would bring my old, video camera and record the shows and do whatever I could just to be a part of it. And then in '99, I got the opportunity to train to first start refereeing and then to wrestle. And that was in Holland, Michigan. And here we are, almost 20 years later.
Okay, so how long did you train before you had your first match?
The first time I got in the ring was my last week of 8th grade. I started training really officially in early '99, but I had been in the ring a bit. I'd been taking bumps. I knew a bit of what there was to know until my first match was in May of '99. So it was a few months.
Okay, so who was your first match again?
My first match, I showed up to the show just expecting to, record the show or help out or whatever. And a guy showed up really, really, really late, and the promoter kicked him off the show. He said, "All right, Jimmy Jacobs, you're wrestling tonight." I wrestled a guy named Keith Cream in May 1st, 1999. And I barely knew how to run the ropes, but it was my first match, and it was cool. And once it was over, I remember laying outside on the grass and just looking up the stars and being like, "I'm a professional wrestler now." It was great.
Yeah. So how did you first become a writer for the WWE?
So after about 16 years of working on the independents, I have a lot of friends that work in WWE, and different people that I think wanted to see me there in some capacity. So when it sort of dawned on me, and I've always have an aptitude for the creative side of wrestling, but when it dawned on me that working creative for WWE was the route I should take, I just made some phone calls. I called Daniel Bryan, who's always been a big fan of mine as far as creatively. I called up Joey Mercury, and they both put me in front of the right people to start the interviewing process, and it was great.
Okay. Okay, so and then how did you start with Impact?
With him, so after I got fired from WWE in October of last year, Scott D'Amore called me up, and Scott just became a VP for Impact Wrestling. I've known Scott since I was like 16 years old, and he called me up. He said, "Yo, I don't know if we want you here. I don't know if you want to be here, but we should probably have a conversation and see if there's it'll be see if it would be mutually beneficial for us to work together." And so we had a conversation. They had me come down to some shows they did in Ottawa, Canada, in November of last year, just to see if I could be of help to them, and it just felt like a good fit.
Oh, okay. So you're here at Bar Wrestling tonight.
I am.
So do you have any other upcoming shows?
I always have upcoming shows. It's part of the blessing and curse of being an independent wrestler. That's been my thing. Anytime, any place, anywhere. After this, tomorrow I'm helping. I work with Rise Wrestling, which is all women's company. I help with that, so I'll be working like backstage and helping girls, the women with creatively on some things to do. And the same thing next week. They have shows in Naperville, Illinois. I'll be doing that there, and then the week after that I'm in Detroit, and the week after that, and so on and so forth, forever and ever. Amen.
Okay, so is there any way people can follow you on your social medias?
Absolutely. My Twitter is at Jimmy Jacobs X. That's also my Instagram is Jimmy Jacobs X, and you can follow me and whatever it is I do. I'm not even sure anymore some days, but you can see all the updates there.
Yeah. Okay, so we've reached the end of the little podcast here.
What's up?
We've reached the end of our.
This is it. This is the end.
Yeah.
All right.
This is short
Well, good.
little
Thanks for having me, Anna.
Thank you
Appreciate
for being
it.
a guest on